Good morning. We're going to read together Psalm 121 this morning. In Psalm 121 we read these words, I lift up my eyes to the hills. From where does my help come? My help comes from the Lord, who made heaven and earth. He will not let your foot be moved. He who keeps you will not slumber. Behold, he who keeps Israel will neither slumber nor sleep. The Lord is your keeper. The Lord is your shade on your right hand. The sun shall not strike you by day, nor the moon by night. The Lord will keep you from all evil. He will keep your life. The Lord will keep your going out and your coming in from this time forth and forevermore. I'm sure you can imagine what it's like to go on a journey. And in fact, our lives are like a journey, because every journey has a starting point, it has a central point, and ultimately the journey ends somewhere when we reach our desired destination. As we read together some of these Psalms and think about them over the next few days, we're thinking about people who were on a journey, people who were making their way up to Jerusalem to worship God. And as they make their way on what for them would be a very difficult and sometimes a dangerous journey, these people would sing and recite some of these Psalms that we're reading together in our daily devotions. And the psalmist says in verse 1 of Psalm 121, I will lift my eyes to the hills. Where does my help come from? My help comes from the Lord who made heaven and earth. It's a remarkable picture of the power of God, because at some point I believe they would of course reach a place where they can see the hills that surround Jerusalem. I'm sure you've been on a journey and you can see a landmark in the distance. You haven't arrived at your destination, but you know that when you reach that landmark you'll be there. Well, they can see the hills that surround Jerusalem. And these pilgrim people say, I lift my eyes to the hills. From whence cometh my help? Where does my help come from? My help comes from the Lord who created the heavens and the earth. There's amazing power in nature, isn't there? When we look at those hills, they're a picture of strength and steadfastness and stability. But the people were not simply looking to the hills, they were thinking about the person who created the hills. And so whenever we see the power of the wind or the power of a wave, we see the devastation and destruction that wind and waves can cause. It's a picture for us of not just the power of creation, but the power of the Creator. And this morning, that power of God is either for each one of us or it is against us. But these people reciting these Psalms were able to say, I lift my eyes to the hills. That's where my help comes from. My help comes from the God who made heaven and who made earth. So this is a picture in this Psalm of God's power. It's also a Psalm which shows us God's protection, because the psalmist says, he will not let your foot be moved, and he who keeps you will not slumber. He who keeps Israel will neither slumber nor sleep. The Lord is your keeper. The Lord is your shade on your right hand. The sun won't strike you by day, nor the moon by night. The Lord will keep you from all evil. But that doesn't mean that we won't experience problems or we won't experience pain. Although God is all powerful and God can protect us, we need to understand that there are periods in our life when we will suffer pain and we will have to endure many problems. But no pain or no problem can come into your life unless God permits it to come. You find that in the book of Job, where Job has prospered and everything seems to be going well in his life for a period, and then God lowers the hedge of protection around Job. and he permits Satan to attack Job. And Job suffers tremendously. He suffered problems, he suffered pain, but he only suffered what God permitted him to suffer. So we have in this a remarkable psalm, a demonstration of the power of God. So when you look at creation today, when you look at the intricate detail in a beautiful flower, think that behind that beauty, there is a creator. When you look at everything around you, think of the power of God in creation. And think of the power that God has to protect you and to provide for you. He watches over you, he keeps your going out and your coming in from this time forth and forevermore. We trust you'll be encouraged as you meditate on Psalm 121 this morning. And we trust that you'll know the Lord's blessing and help throughout the rest of this day. Thank you.